We'd like to start out by thanking our valuable sponsors. Sense of Satisfaction by Cricket is the place for all your fragrance needs. Plus, she's got products to heal what ails your skin and your hair. Shop at scentsbycricket.com. Special thanks to our valued sponsor, John Travis, a financial coach and certified Kingdom advisor with Richard Young Associates, a registered investment advisor. Thanks goes to Anna Patterson, my sister in the Lord who faithfully gives to this ministry every month. And to our newest sponsor, LaToya Gerard of Preach the Word Worldwide Network. She is a valued sponsor and a major encourager regarding this ministry. We need and would love to have you as a sponsor. Absolutely no gift is too small. Please note the info regarding giving throughout and at the end of the show, and help us spread these testimonies around the world. Please note that the views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the viewpoints of our sponsors. It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Today, as I always do, I really do always have a special guest. And this is someone who lived right next door to me. But the crazy part is that we have become closer since she left than we were when she was here. And but I know it's all God. He had a hand in everything. And so anyway, I'm going to introduce her and then I'll tell you a little bit more about her. So our guest today is LaToya Gerard. Thank you so much, Toya, for being with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored. I'm excited and honored at the same time.
Well, thank you. Y'all, LaToya is a daughter, a wife, a mom, a friend. I found out so much. LaToya works at a Christian television station, PTWWN, and she also is an actress. Didn't know that till recently. She has a show on PTWWN, and there are so many things, and I know as I always do that I'm going to learn more about Toya as you learn more about her. So Toya,
Ma'am,
it's amazing because it's funny, the whole time you live next door, it's like to the car, headed wherever I'm going, out of the car, in the house to do the next thing. And so I would see you and your kids and pass like, hey, how y'all doing? And you had probably a much closer relationship with my sister Cricket, because Cricket's always at the house and always outside and just she's the people person.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you left, is when it felt like our connection began to grow. And you have just been an amazing encouragement for me. And I don't think you even have any idea how much the gestures that you have done towards me, your words, even just short texts, send me into tears so often. But I'm just so grateful for you. And so I'm excited to hear your story.
I'm excited to tell my story, and I'm just thankful for you. It's so amazing to just, I guess even though we didn't talk every day, I felt so safe. I just knew, hey, if it's an emergency, I'm good. Because all I got to do is go next door. I'm good. And that was enough peace for me. So you all always showed me that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So let's start with LaToya. Mm-hmm. Tell me about how it was when you were growing up. What are some of your
like some of the memories that you have from childhood.
Yes. So, PK kid, preacher's kid. Yeah, was me growing up. My mom started pastoring when I was a teenager, so I was right in that transitioning of being a kid, but then becoming a young adult, and I was finding myself. So it was very alarming in a sense to me for her to, what, you're starting a ministry? What do you mean? What does this mean? So
Right.
I had to go through all of that. And of course, like every parent, a pastor, they want their kids to set the example for other kids in the church. And so I had to kind of battle with that because I wasn't ready to set the example. I was ready to have the time of my life and do everything I wanted to do. And
Right.
church and God and everything else was kind of the last thing on my mind. I used to feel like, well, my mommy loves God and he loves her. So I can just fit in
Right.
somewhere in between and I'm good. So that was before I had to figure it out for myself. So that was childhood for me, a whole lot of trial and error to get it right.
Okay. During your childhood, were there any struggles that looking back you can recognize you had?
Absolutely. And I think the same struggles that followed me into my young adult and adult life. It's just, I think I've always just wanted acceptance. Sometimes you just want to feel accepted. You want to feel like you're doing a good job. You want to feel included. I never would like to feel rejected. And so a lot of times I did find myself feeling rejection just from the most simple things. Being in the church a lot of times when you're the preacher's kid, everybody does not like you. That's not true. So it were several girls in the church that, didn't want to be my friend kind of thing. And that would bother me, dealing with that rejection. Then I had others who, of course, did want to be my friend. So, I had to go through those different, phases of wanting to feel accepted, trying to fit in. And then a lot of times I would feel like the pressure was all on me because even though they were the problem, you best believe I was the one that had to fix the problem because I was the PK kid and I was the representation of the pastor. So they could come in and roll their eyes, but I had to smile about it. Even deep down inside, I wanted to say some not so nice things.
Right.
So that's probably one of my struggles that I struggle with and from my young adult life on even into my adult life, going through some things that I, went through as well.
Yes. One of the things that I found is that this is my belief. I'm waiting on the Lord to flesh it out to me. But it's been my experience that whatever the enemy throws at us, I believe he throws within those first 12 years. Everything after that is repeat. It comes with different faces, different places, but he's not coming up with anything new. I think within those first 12 years, whatever it is, those are the things that we'll revisit for the rest of our lives. And what happens is we learn how to handle it better if we're wise. And so we can, decrease the damage. We can speed up the time that it takes in that cycle by how we respond to it. And that's what I believe. So just like you're saying, those things, the acceptance piece, not wanting the rejection, that will follow us. It will follow us. But and I say us, because girl, that's one of mine. That's one of my struggles. And I'm to the point now where I have to remind myself, and I have to thank God. There's a scripture that says, and it's in the Old Testament and the New, I believe. But it talks about the stone that the builders rejected, became the chief cornerstone. And then the very next thing says, this is the Lord's doing, and it's marvelous in our eyes. We will say this is the Lord's doing, and it's marvelous in our eyes, to everything, to the blessings, to everything. But if you get back to the scripture, it's talking about the rejection, not just being that chief cornerstone, not just being the the needed thing, the important thing, but that rejection is God ordained.
Yeah.
And we don't see it that way sometimes.
No, and it's all a part of our testimony and our growth, because I may have experienced rejection for one reason and you could have experienced it for a whole nother reason. And so that's just how God works. Just like I was saying before, our testimony it's not ours to keep hostage, even if it may be something that we're not even so comfortable sharing, it's for somebody else. We go through everything else just so we can be able to minister to somebody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So did you find that search for acceptance took you down certain roads?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Searching for acceptance, wanting to be loved, just it took me trying to find acceptance and love with the wrong crowd, the wrong people, just connecting and dibbling and dabbling in things that I know I had no business doing just to feel accepted or to feel a part. And that's where I went down, even though I knew it was the wrong road, because when you're a preacher's kid and you come from a family, even my grandfather was a preacher. So you have this whole line of y'all know the word, you know what God said, what's right, what's wrong. And that's a lot of pressure, so you say, okay, I know what God said, I know the word, but it's not always easy to follow that, because you always say, well, I want to find out for myself. That's what I used to say to myself. I want to find out for myself. Yeah, they say you can't do this and you can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, let me go find out and see, So absolutely.
Okay. And so did you, once you transition, because you took us into your teenage years and that time, what are some of those other things that you saw that, like, looking back, you can recognize that the enemy was throwing back then at you?
Well, it would be, I think my biggest challenge was just being, I hate to say it like this, but I'm transparent, but I think just being fast, just wanting to, going through a sense of being boy crazy, because as a woman or female, period, when you deal with those type of issues, I don't know why, but it's just like the acceptance from a man just puts it on 100. It makes you feel like, oh, I'm doing something now because he accepts me or I'm wanted, And so when you go through that phase, you may constantly want to feel accepted, So wanting to connect and, wanting to, connect in ways you shouldn't be connecting at a younger age, and just going through. And I think that was another thing that just kind of steered me down the path of, having a boyfriend when I knew I probably shouldn't have had one, So that was another thing I dealt with.
Okay. And now you have three beautiful children.
3 beautiful babies. And they all have a story. They all have a story, a testimony behind them.
Okay. And they are so special. They're so good. You have just the sweetest kids. So with your oldest, how old were you when you had your oldest?
So, and that flows right into my story, really. So my oldest son is 16 years old now. I was 18 when I found out that I was pregnant with him. And during that time, again, I was battling between, am I going to listen to mom, or do I not need her and I can do this on my own and I can move out? And so it was absolutely, oh, you can do this on your own. You can move out. And that's what I did. And my boyfriend at the time was kind of like my high school sweetheart. I had started dating him at 15 years old, and all the way up until then we were dating, and I was head over heels. I mean, you couldn't tell me nothing about this man, and found out I was pregnant at 18. And I think I had wanted to feel accepted for so long with him that I literally would kind of reprogram myself to be the way he wanted me to be, right? So as we got older and the relationship grew, and then we have this baby when he's 4 years old, at this point, I'm just like, what's going on? I'm A, you're B, we're going two totally different directions. Not that he was a terrible person, but I think it was just for so long, I was transforming into what he wanted instead of what I wanted. And so we were just, going two different ways.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So like you, and I, of course, I have not had any natural children. All my babies are spiritual, we're connected that way. But I know that motherhood in itself is a force to be reckoned with, and I think you really begin to find you come out, because even from what I understand, like people, you may think this is you, this is who I am, this is what I do. And then when the baby comes, you really begin, the real you starts, because you're struggling to hold on to what what you just always took for granted, or you just always pushed to the side. But when it's challenged by this person that you're now responsible for, a lot of people do begin to really understand who they are, because they're fighting to hold on to them. And so when you have that on the outside, and then like you said, when you've been looking for love and acceptance and you find it, or what you think is it, without even knowing, when you have the issues like we had with acceptance, like you said, you begin to morph into someone else. So once you started feeling like, this, I'm losing me, and we're not headed in the same direction, what kind of choices were you faced with?
Okay, so this was a big one for me, because I had love for him. I think he had love for me, but I think it was just so much of me feeling just trapped, or I don't want to say trapped, but I just was feeling incomplete. Like I just didn't feel like I couldn't sit back and say, okay, this is going to work and we're going to be together from years from now. It was something, I just think we wanted two totally different things. I think we had built a foundation on teenage love, and we were no longer teenagers, and we were different adults than we were as teenagers. And so it was a shift that had happened, and I wanted to go one way and he wanted to go a different way, and we couldn't find a common ground, and we ultimately just ended up splitting. And then at this point, I'm like, okay, well, this is the guy that I've known and loved since 15. So now I'm a woman, and I know that that's not necessarily what I was wanting. So what do I want now? Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was in a place where I was in a transition of kind of being tired, and I said, well, maybe I should try this guy thing. My thing was, okay, maybe I should find a guy that's more into church, or, may love the Lord more. This is what I'm telling myself. So I'm kind of positioning myself for change, not necessarily wanting to go run out and find someone, but I started back going to church. I started back, trying to be on more of a positive road.
So you paused those things. Mm-hmm. So when you moved out from with your mom, is that that you started to move away from church?
Mm-hmm. I would say that because I felt like when I was with my mom, I was going because I had to go. And then when I moved out, it's like, I don't have to go anymore. I can do whatever I want to do. So church is the last thing on my mind. So I'm just out at this point, having fun, enjoying my man, doing everything else. And then, boom, I'm pregnant.
Okay. So once you decided, I got to try something different, I need a different kind of person, you started back going to church. Kind of, were you able to connect with the real Toya? Were you able to, or you still struggled?
So I thought,
Okay.
you couldn't tell me nothing. In my head at that moment, I thought I had figured life all out. He was the problem. The problem was gone. I'm free now. I'm going to go down this road. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So little did I know that I was the whole problem. I still was, okay, yeah, I walked away from that situation, but there was still other issues going on that I was ignoring. And I was just continuing to go on with life, but not fully healing concerning me, me personally, receiving the healing that I needed in that moment.
Right. And so where did that take you? Like when you began to go to church and like get submerged and into that again, was it? So let me ask you that, do you think it was life that let you know, like, pat, you're not who you think you are? Or was it being engaged with the word again? Or was it a combination of both?
It probably was a combination of both, because once I started going to church and I kind of had a new group of friends, and it was, I was just transitioning, going with the flow. So I thought I was on the way to greatness in my head. This is how I was feeling at the time. And I meet a guy. And I meet this guy, and I'm just immediately like, oh my gosh, he's so awesome. He loves the Lord, and he goes to church, and he prays. And, I'm just thinking like, I've hit the jackpot at this point.
Right.
And oh my goodness, little did I know that I was literally connecting with the person that would cause me the greatest pain and the greatest disappointment that I have ever experienced in my life. Okay. That's what happens next.
So walk us through whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. So this is the moment in my life where I really share my testimony. And when I share my testimony, I've never really went in depth with it like I'm willing to share on your show, because I know it's time. I've always kind of just sugarcoated it, like, oh, I got married, it was a bad marriage, and I'm out, and that's it. But I never really talk about what happened and how it affected me. And so so I'm head over heels thinking that I've just met Mr. Prince Charming. We get together, we date about 9 months, I think. He proposes. And I'm really head over heels then. I'm like, oh my God, I got a husband. I got the fairy tale. I got the happy ever after. And at this time, we moved, because back then I was living in Georgia. My mom was in Florida. And so my mom had so much going on with ministry in Florida. And so I'm saying, okay, well, let's move to Florida. And he was excited too, because he's like, oh, this is awesome. I want to do ministry. Let's move to Florida. So our whole plan was to move to Florida and just help my mom and just, walk the right road and just be awesome in Christ, which is what our initial plan was. So we get to Florida. Everything's it's going good for what it is. And at this time I'm working. He's not working, but I'm still like, okay, it doesn't matter. This is it. This is my moment. If I got to pay all the bills, I got to pay all the bills. Let's do this. This is my Prince Charming. This is my happy ever after. So then comes the emotional abuse, right? Oh, you're not attractive. You're not pretty enough. I'm not, you don't make me feel good. You should lose weight. And I'm like, oh, this is just a part of relationships. Let me keep it rolling. This is my Prince Charming. Then the cheating starts and the lying starts. And it was so many different situations and so many different women over and over and over again. Unfortunately, that I had to just dealing with the drama of being married to someone that was unfaithful.
Okay.
So then I get pregnant. So then I'm saying, okay, well, surely God, you gotta fix this thing because, we're married. So I'm pregnant now and we've got to make this thing work. I didn't work with the first situation. I don't want to have it not work for this situation. Right. So then I'm focused and I'm trying to, redo or whatever I feel like I need to do to restart the marriage. And just no, it doesn't work.
Takes two people.
It takes two people to make it work. So here I am pregnant and I'm still going through the drama of him being unfaithful, even during my pregnancy. And it was for 7 years of just going through so many lies and just deceitfulness and rejection. And I almost feel like when I look back on it now, I think he drained me so much. I feel like he was an opportunist in a sense, because I was giving him the platform that he wanted and he needed, because he was one of those people where he was like, oh, look at me. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. And I think that my family.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at the ssbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey. Missed any of our past episodes?
The pain that I've gone through, I've been through lots. Depression, perversion, low self-esteem, rejection. But I'm here and I'm loving life and I'm changed forever. I'm trying to maim you to leave you physically and mentally maim you. He wanted your life.
I don't think he so much wanted my life is that he wanted some results. He wanted me to stay in the earth and not be who I am now.
Piece where you start talking about it was your love walk.
Yes.
We had an opportunity to not only share our experience, but find out that there were so many women in the room who had similar experiences.
Advice would you give to people who find themselves in the grips of grief right now?
The pain is inevitable, but the suffering is optional.
You were still sick, you still weren't well, but did something change for you when they gave it a name?
Yes, because once they put a label on it, I felt like they was putting a label on me.
Catch up on past shows on my YouTube channel at Marcy Bush, MarceyBush. And be sure to subscribe so you won't miss any future episodes.